when women come up to you at the racetrack and they were just like, why is it that everybody that wears a heroic suit is awesome? They're great guys. They're people that run up to you and want to help you, and you want to hug them. And I always tell them that's my business plan. You can't be an asshole and wear a heroic suit.
Hey Todd, I'm super excited to be talking to you today. Thanks so much for your time speaking with me this evening.
Thank you very much.
So you're the guy who started the Heroic Racing Apparel. I've seen your stuff. It's pretty unique. It's pretty cool. What was the inspiration behind the brand? How did you get involved in the motorcycle racing, and why the name Heroic?
Well, what's funny is I was just cruising through. You ever plug a cell phone in, and then that cell phone comes up with pictures that you haven't seen in years?
Yep.
And I just plugged my cell phone in. It's funny is because it kind of like reorganizes itself all the time. And I plugged in my cell phone about an hour ago, and I came up with these pictures from 2008. And a lot of times, people anymore, they look at the brand and it's like, oh, you make race suits and whatnot. But when I first got involved in this, race suits were like really straight up and down, and they were really there. There was for me there was a problem just because I had some medical issues where the suits that I was buying from the market, they just weren't working. I mean, I had broken my leg, and I had screws where they used to make the legs, or they used to make the suit for somebody that's 6'4", 6'5". And so, a guy that is 6 foot, or a guy that's 5'6", or a guy that's 5'4", trying to get into these things is just like incredible. So I got into this just because I wanted to make my suit more comfortable, because my whole tagline is fit, focus, and function. And if it doesn't fit, you can't focus, and then you poorly function. And so my whole ambition when I first started it was to make something that helps me break through. And so, I guess today a lot of people's like, oh, you make race suits. Well, at that time, and it wasn't that long ago, that was when I first started. When I first started was 2006, and I came to market in 2008. And when I dropped a suit, when we finally came out with a big production, it just quickly became the suit that everybody wanted to copy. And so it's now it's kind of, I need to kind of recreate myself, but that's kind of where we started. You know what I mean?
Right. Now, how did you choose the name Heroic?
Well, my question for you is, how did you choose the name Shiny Side Up?
Well, I mean, shiny side up, it's a pretty common motorcycle term to begin with, right? Usually when you say that, you're telling, hey guys, keep the shiny side up. Make sure you don't drop the bike when you're track day, when you're out for a ride, things of that nature. It's something that we've been using forever. And just one day when Dan and I were talking about starting a podcast, because he knew a lot of interesting people like yourselves, I just said, if we called it whatever, let's call it shiny side up. And it just stuck. He's like, wow, that's cool. Like it's a common term, but it's a good enough term that I think it seems to work for this podcast. So that's how it started.
So you'd have to say the name of a brand is very important.
It is, for sure. Yep.
That's what I wanted to hit out of the park with Heroic. And so I was teaching, I wasn't great, but I was, we were teaching beginners at track days when the coaches that were already there didn't want to teach beginners. And so we were, I was a pro horse trainer before I got in when I was a young guy. And so a lot of the things that I was good at teaching Eric or Dan or whoever was just, ever since I met Dan, he's kind of known some of my personal things, I stutter. And so, for me, I was very good at riding horses, and I feel like I'm very good at riding motorcycles. But the biggest thing for me is I kind of break it down because that's really what I guess helped me get along. And so anyway, at this track day, there's this little Filipino guy. His name was Nelson, and we were at Pocono East in the Poconos at the racetrack. And we're going around the track, and this kid saw the way that I was working with my customers, and he was just like, man, can I ride with you guys? And I said, sure. I said, the biggest thing with him is he was very scared, and so quickly, the moral of the story was, he ends up wrecking at the end of our time.
Hmm.
And he said, and I always get guys off the racetrack, and I said, and I would say, Eric, man, I give you a critical sandwich. And I say, man, you did this great and that great. And, you need to really work on this right here, but this right here, but dude, you were riding like a rock star. So anyway, Nelson ends up wrecking. I get him off the ground. It was at the end of a track day where none of the control rider or the EMS and whatnot, they were smoking cigarettes already on the alcohol.
Right.
So I go around, drop my bike, go pick him up, said, Nelson, are you okay? And he says, well, I don't feel like a rock star, but you made me feel heroic.
Nice.
And so, when I was growing up, my father and also people belonging to a church, they would recommend as a young adult, always write down your good things and put it on the notebook beside your bedstand. And so I was going through some things later in life, and I remembered that day when that guy said, man, you made me feel special. You made me feel heroic. You made me feel like I could get around myself. And so I was already making things, and I was just like, man, if I could create a brand, whether it's underwear or jeans or whatever, and inspire people to be better people, how special would that be? And so I was already riding motorcycles, so I was like, and I was already making alterations to suits. I was like, how about I come up with and do the marketing side of the company first? And that's how I got stuck into race suits. I had no intentions.
Right.
I had no intentions of being the suit man. It's just I spent all my money, and now we're here. So
yeah, I am always humbled and in awe of people who have the guts to say, you know what, I want to do something on my own. I'm willing to risk it all, to try and do things without having a safety net, as it were. I'm a failed entrepreneur, right? I started my own software company. I tried getting stuff, done. We didn't make any money, right? And I quickly realized I didn't have it in me. I don't have that. I'm not going to quit. I'm not going to quit. I'm not going to quit. And I didn't have it in me.
Yeah.
At what point during the start of your journey did you say, you know what, screw it. I'm all in. I don't care what it takes. I don't care the sacrifices. I'm all in. I'm going to make this company work.
Oh, dude, there's been so many of those moments. I've got two guys that I know that I'm responsible to, is that they've given me money over the years, and I personally know that I got to be successful in order to hit those guys off. And they're friends of mine, but the whole deal is I know I have a commitment to them. Mm-hmm. And so I get days right now where I'm sure you've been too, and my wife comes in, she's like, "That's it, we're done, no more. We got to sell this place and get out of here." And it's just like, dude, let's roll back. What have we done in order to make money today? What have we done in order to sit back and pull another tab? Mm-hmm. And what have we done to be able to say, hey, you know what? I haven't explored this avenue. Because, to be honest with you, you got something special. I got something special. This girl over here has something special. And we just, some people always say you can't polish a turd, but I mean, sometimes you just gotta keep honing it,
So it's really about never giving up, no matter what it takes. Is that what I'm hearing?
I mean, you gotta look at the health analysis. You know what I mean? When you're looking at a server and you're looking at the hard disk and whatnot, if you see a failure, you gotta hope that they're hot swappable. You know what I mean? Well, at
Right.
least back in the day. But the same thing with this. There's all different things that I can be better, but I don't know. I just haven't seen one of those points where I got to give up yet.
Yeah.
It's still fun. I still enjoy it.
Yeah. No, that's actually really, really cool and inspiring. Actually, I was thinking about your initial what you told me initially. You used to be a horse trainer,
Yeah.
and then you started teaching people how to ride motorcycles. So I was just thinking in the back of my head, you went from a single horsepower to multiple
Yeah.
horsepower, and it was still
Well,
about riding.
I was doing that when I was a kid in grade school and in high school. And then when I got out of school, my first corporate job, I bought a race bike. And so I still have all my horse stuff. I still got, we still got our trailers, and we still got our saddles and all that kind of stuff. But it's just like the nice thing about the motorcycles, you can turn the key off and leave it in the garage if you want to.
Right.
You can't do that with a horse. So,
Right.
but for years, I was in IT as well. And so from 1999 to 2009, I left IT. And so that was one of the biggest. Well, it wasn't a big hurdle at that time. I felt at the time that I was cheating on my boss, because I would be working a quarter of the day and then on my cell phone 3/4 of the day outside. And I
Right.
was like, man, I did that for about a year and I felt bad.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, okay. So as a kid, you were doing horse training.
Yep.
How does one start? Like, did your parents own horses? Like, where does that love for horses come from?
I grew up in Brian Dennehy just passed away a couple days ago. He was an actor and he is that movie Silverado. As a kid, I watched Silverado 1,000 times, and I had to get a horse, and I had to mimic what he was doing. But my dad had a big cattle farm,
Okay.
and then we switched to pigs. We fed out like 10,000 pigs a year, and my dad, he farms at that time anywhere from 1,500 to, I think, up to one time 5,000 acres. And so I grew up doing that, but I always wanted a motorcycle, man. I always wanted a motorcycle. How about you guys? When did you guys get into motorcycles?
For me, it's an extremely pivotal moment. There are two movies that got me very, very interested in motorcycling. First one is Top Gun.
Top Gun, yeah. Me
Right?
too. Yeah.
There you go. You saw Maverick ride his bike, and you're like, "Oh, that's the coolest thing ever." I was a pretty big loser growing up. I terrible with women, and the only time anybody paid attention to me was when I was on the bike. So hey,
Huh.
that's one thing. And the second movie it's a known movie in Hong Kong where I was born. Right.
Okay.
I don't even know what the English name is. We'll put it post. We'll put a picture of it up in post. But it's at the time there's a famous actor in Hong Kong named Andy Lau, and the movie is centered around street racing.
Really?
Yeah, illegal street racing, obviously, and it's about this guy who always had the second best bike, and he
Okay.
couldn't get a ride in the Macau GP. Right, that was the whole storyline.
No
Uh,
way.
yeah, yeah, and again, that cemented my desire to ride. I want to be a bad boy. I want to be somebody cool. And so those two movies combined together, and me working weeknights, I saved it up with a buddy of mine that we split a bike,
No
and
way.
we split insurance. Yeah, so we had a CBX 250, really
Yeah.
really old bike,
Sure.
right? And we thought we were the man, right? And that's how it went. But my list of motorcycles is very short. I went from a CBX to a CBR 600, and then a CBR 929, and
Yeah.
that's what I still ride now. I
Cool.
didn't really feel like I needed to change up the bikes. Do you
Yeah.
ride today?
Yeah, well, the last 2 years I haven't ridden. I mean, we'll go to these like big shows, and we'll get to ride the Harleys, or we'll get to ride the Honda Gold Wings, or at these big like Sturgis, Laconia, all these different events we go to. But for a number, I'm just kind of, I mean, for a while, everybody, all these other competitors, it was like, oh, that guy doesn't even ride anymore. I got tired of it, man. I mean, I really enjoy going to the racetrack. I really like going, but after a while, I feel like I'm chasing my tail.
Right.
And so I still enjoy it, but the other side too, I guess it's for me, I know in my head that in order to be successful with this, that there's a large margin of error that I can get hurt pretty quick. And so that's one of the reasons the bikes, because I got a lot of responsibility, you know what I mean? And so I guess that's floating around in the back of my head. But I got started like that too. What's funny is with Top Gun, there's really only one scene in the whole movie where that guy's riding a bike, right?
Yeah.
And what's funny is that scene got so many people excited about motorcycles. Isn't that crazy?
It is. I mean, at the time, when you look at it, is the bike is the closest thing to flying in terms of speed.
Yeah.
That mere mortals can attain, right? I mean, no one can afford a Ferrari. Not many people can go buy a Ferrari, Lamborghini, but everybody can put down $5,000 and get a very, very quick bike, even in today's standard.
But isn't it crazy that one scene in a movie that took less than I was probably, as soon as you said that, probably 30 seconds?
Yeah.
That cemented an industry for a lot of people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's kind of an interesting, because like, for instance, a lot of people talk about biker boys. A lot of people talk about this and that. But what's funny is there's so many people. Top Gun, it wasn't like the whole thing was full of bikes. It was 30 seconds of the movie.
Yeah, it wasn't even about bikes at all. You're right.
It wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't even about bikes. So,
yeah,
interesting.
Yeah, I mean, even now when I think about it, I don't even know why that scene was particularly powerful. I mean, it was great. It was fun. But you're right. It wasn't nothing special, quote unquote special. So.
But how many times have you got on your bike and tried to like relive that moment? You know what I mean?
Every time I'm on the bike.
Isn't that funny?
It's every time.
That's kind of
crazy.
Yeah. And the other thing that's funny to me too is we used to have a parts and accessory shop before I started doing this. And what's crazy is how many guys come into the shop and they say, "Hey, that bike over there, can I buy it?" And I was like, "Yeah, of course." And the second thing that comes out of mind is, will I pick up girls? And so, what's funny is, to me, what's the ironic part is that unless you're really good, you're not going to pick up anybody unless you're picking up girls right now. You know what I mean? So it's kind of funny what the connection there.
Yeah, no, I've had other buddies who've asked me the same thing. They goes, "Is it true? Do they get girls with bikes?" I said,
"Is it true?"
I go. Here's the thing. When I ride to the spot where the clubs are and there's girls coming out, when they see me on the bike, yeah, they're interested until I take off my helmet. So that kind of kills the conversation, right? So yeah, as long as you have your helmet on, you're good. But once you take it off, the bike has nothing to do with it.
I don't know. I think Dan said that to me before, but it's just, I think it's just all the presentation. You know what I mean? It's the energy. You know what I'm saying? So. But yeah, man, I tell you, motorcycles are an awesome sport. It's that's why, like, right now, it's just, I'm thinking, right now, trying to figure out. We were talking today about with a buddy of mine, a customer of mine, electrically charged fibers inside that. Fibers that can be electronically charged to turn the fibers into almost like a muscle. And so, dude, there's so many different avenues you can go down. It's amazing,
Huh.
I mean, because like right now, everybody's talking about airbags.
Right.
And man, there's so many different avenues you can go down. It's like a rabbit hole.
Yeah. Now, I haven't bought a new suit in well over 10 years. Are the new suits being manufactured for the big guys? Do they all have airbags now, or is that a really, really special thing?
Yeah, well, we're getting ready to introduce two options. You can put the Alpine Star Tech Air in our new custom suits, or we're working on a fully electronic system from Helite, which is a very lightweight solution. That the Alpine Stars has this big solid back protector where the airbag is encased inside. I call it the surfboard. It looks like a surfboard. It feels like a surfboard.
All right.
Where the Helite is a little more, it's more similar to the Dainese system. So a lot of, to answer your question, a lot of these different places, it depends on how much you want to spend.
Sure.
And then the cost of ownership. And so when did airbag start? 2014, 2016, something like that.
Okay. Yeah, it's around there. Yeah.
And the biggest thing is, I've always been just like, well, man, I got to get on that. But then the other thing is, we got a really good relationship with D3O, and so for 200, at that time, $2,000 to $2,500 for an airbag, or $250 for an upgraded D3O protection package that you can jump out of a second story window with. So we kind of, when everybody was trying to pedal, or is still trying to pedal this, we were trying to pedal something that has a lower cost of ownership.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, because think about it. You're out at a racetrack, that system goes off, and you can't recharge it, or you have to send it back, or I don't have a canister if it's an Alpine Star or whatnot. You're kind of stuck. Well, with that D3O for $250, it's going to be available 3,000 years from now.
Is there a shelf life to these airbags like they were in cars 10 years ago?
I don't think anybody's talking about that.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the, that's what I really respect with Dainese is that, every time that you wreck it, they want you to send it in, have it checked and whatnot. The issue with Dainese is that it takes a long time in order for you to get it back. But then the other side is, too, is like what you're saying is that, hey, they want to make sure that you're going to be safe the next time it goes off. They want to make sure that the integrity of the airbag is in a way so that they can warranty it if they have to, if they get into a legal aspect. So I guess, that's something I don't think anybody's talking about, but, these things are seamed together. They're fused together so that they, it's just like your airbag and your Celica from 1996. There's going to be degradation,
Yeah.
But that's an interesting question that I've never heard it be asked yet. So.
Yeah, I actually, this is the first time we've met, but I actually know of you again through Dan. We had talked about doing something maybe 2 years ago.
Okay.
That was in the not motorcycling industry, but it was the clothing apparel industry. And one of the things I pitched to Dan, and I actually really wanted to talk to you at the time, but then I realized I don't have the bandwidth and I'm probably talking out of my ass, is that we wanted to do ballistic clothing.
I remember him saying that. Yeah.
Okay, but for schools, right? So you think you're in college, right? If you put a very light system, it's not going to stop. It's not going to stop a 357 point blank, but it will stop, a 22, no problem. And it might be able to stop a 9 mil if you're running away fast enough or far enough.
Sure.
All right. But the point is, it's very lightweight. It's very discreet. You can barely tell what it is. And now you tell me if there are systems where it's electrically charged to harden the material, is there a way we can work with some kind of a Kevlar-like material where it looks like flex clothing normally until you're in that situation where you need to push a button, charge it up, everything gets hardened, and now becomes ballistic clothing.
Yeah, I mean that's it's kind of funny because we were talking about today all the different possibilities. Whether you're enhancing your motion or whether you're protecting yourself. and it's very similar to what you're saying right now. Yeah, I mean, there's they're still testing it, but there's a guy right across the street from us right here at our shop, and he's the guy that supposedly invented that charged glass that you turn the switch on and it goes dark.
All right.
And then you hit the button and it takes the charge away and it goes clear. So I mean, I think what you're talking about with, and what we were talking about with that charged textile. Yeah, it's right around the corner.
Cool. I look forward to wearing it.
Yeah, be pretty badass, I think.
Yeah. I see in the background you are at your shop.
Yep.
You must have met a lot of pro racers in your time. Do people come visit you, or do they send a guy for you to bring it over to them?
Yeah, that's one of probably the most exciting. I've got tons of awesome guys that we deal with, but over the years, it's funny, and this is not even answering the question, but the biggest make you feel like you're doing a good thing or whatnot is when women come up to you at the racetrack and they were just like, why is it that everybody that wears a heroic suit is awesome? They're great guys. They're people that run up to you and want to help you, and you want to hug them. And I always tell them that's my business plan. You can't be an asshole and wear a heroic suit. And what's funny too is the guys that really do me over, or that I've had a bad feeling about them to begin with, I got a lot of guys that say, man, can we just do a deal because, you're helping me out? There's a lot of people that we've had bad dealing with over the time, and I had that gut feeling. Gut feelings are amazing.
Huh.
But, and I knew I should have never dealt with them because it's not part of my business plan. It's not who, I'm not saying that I'm anybody special, but I try to be a good per person, and, you can definitely attract good people if you try.
Yeah.
And so with that being said, the most heroic dude we've ever dealt with is a Colombian guy named Santiago Villa. And this guy, man, is the epitome. He's passed away since. But if I could think of heroics Valentino Rossi, that would be Santiago Villa. I mean, and what's funny is he called me on a Saturday afternoon. He said he was standing on top of the podium, and he was standing next to this guy that had a brand new, fresh gold C-3PO gold suit on. And he said, where the hell did you get that suit? And he said, I got it from Todd from Heroic. He said, I just beat you. He said, I got to get me one of those too. And so he called me right after he got off the podium, and he said, hey, he said, I don't know what we could do, but I'm a heroic guy. And he said, I'm going to be the best racer you've ever had wearing your stuff. And what's funny is he paid full price for the suit,
Wow. Yeah.
And it's not, you always hear about what can I get for free? Man, my best customers are the people that really want to progress what we're doing here are full paid customers.
Yeah.
Because they believe in you,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's kind of. Sorry, go ahead.
I don't think I answered your question.
No. No, but I mean, in terms of people coming in, how often are the guys you look up to, guys you see on TV, are they coming to pick up the suit themselves, or is it just something that you usually have to send out?
Yeah, I mean, most of the bigger guys that we deal with, we do a lot of shipping at the beginning of the year.
Mm.
But being that we're very close to, we're 20 minutes from JFK, 25 minutes from LaGuardia, we get a lot of customers and a lot of racers that fly in.
Mm.
We always tell the people that we've got a restaurant right across the street, and it's probably the best Italian restaurants in Long Island. And then they can Uber back to the airport and be in bed, after dinner. Right. So a lot of people come. I mean, a lot of the guys come into the shop, even though we've got a small shop here in New York City. But and it's nice to see everybody. But we do a lot of shipping too.
Yeah, I actually am very fortunate in that I've never bought an off the rack suit.
Okay.
Um, I'm not anybody special, but I happen just word of mouth found out there was a guy probably about an hour away from Toronto, where I'm from, in a smaller city called Hamilton, and he ran a custom made, leather jacket company, like just like you, right? A smaller size operation, probably even smaller than what you have, and he provided racing suits for a lot of the racers in Canada. And so I heard about him. I went and then I picked up a suit. And honestly, like at the time, it wasn't that much more expensive than buying an off the rack suit. And if I can custom design a suit, like why not, right?
What's the brand?
It's he also passed away. His name was I Am Leathers, Ivan. I don't
Okay.
remember his last name, but the company name was called I Am Leathers. And
Okay.
he at the time he made suits for like Jordan's Oaks.
Well, that's, yeah, sure.
Yeah, right. And I begged and plead with him. I go, hey Ivan, I go, please, you. He goes, here, this is Jordan's a suit for the year. And I'm
Yeah.
like, dude, please let me take it to him. Like, I will do anything. I
Let
will
me take it to
let
him.
me personally hand it off to them. The guy's like, no, it's too
That's
precious for that. I can't trust you with that. Like,
That's
right?
interesting.
So that's kind of partly why I asked, because I'm like, oh, I wonder how you do that. So
Well, you know what's funny is I don't know how it comes across, but I mean, a lot of, not all the suits, but a lot of the suits that before we ship it, we take a video of it. And what's funny is, I was sitting there scratching my head the other day. I was like, do people really want to hear this? But what's funny is I've had a bunch of people this year and a bunch of people last year that we didn't do videos on their suits, and they were really upset because seriously, because
yeah,
because for a while I was just like, man, people don't want to hear, or they don't want to hear every suit, and it's just like, oh, Todd's saying the same thing, and stage 1, stage 2, stage
right.
3, E3O. But what's funny is the customer really feels cheated. You know what I mean? And it's not just one time; we've had that a bunch of times. So the delivery of the suit for us is very important because people want, each one, probably the same thing with your buddy. When you went to get a suit, well, I don't know about any other brand. I just know that I try to, when I have an interview with you and I call you up and I even ask what kind of music you like. I ask, and so a lot of these, I just made a suit right now for a guy that dives.
Huh.
And on top of that, we created his business logo. On the back of his arms looks like a seascape, and you can see all these fish in the background. So, dude, I mean, a lot of these things, I always say that there's a soul that we put into it.
Mm-hmm.
And so, what's funny is I totally understand, you want to be able to be part of it, but the whole deal is the guy that's the creator, he really wants to see how that's delivered. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, like when I had my suit made, I went back. First of all, we brought in an extra 10 customers.
Wow.
In the next after the 2-3 years, like I'm like, here, look at my suit, and they're like, holy crap, that looks so good. Where'd you get it? Blah blah blah. And I said, I know a guy in Hamilton, and it was perfect because it's an hour and a half ride from where we are in Toronto, and that was a good excuse to go for a ride. And then you bring 10 guys, and 7 out of 10 guys would be fitted for a suit. So that was really cool. And so I went back to him maybe like 4 years in a row, and every year I'd be like, hey, can you just put this patch on? Can you put this patch on? And he would do it. And the one time he's like, dude, I don't have time right now. Like I literally only have 5 minutes to spare, and I don't want to do a crummy job. And it's just 40 stitches at most.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's a little patch. It was a little, okay, I think it was an awry patch, so maybe it's a little circular, a little, tiny bit more trickier. But the point is, he's like, my attention to detail does not allow me to put this patch on in 5 minutes because I know I'm going to do a crappy job, and for the rest of the week, all I'm going to think about is how I screwed you over.
What's funny is I can understand that. A lot of times people, I feel like I've had a couple people with that same deal, and I tell them, I said, no, I can't do it. In fact, that you can leave it here, but I won't be able to get it for 2 weeks, and people get mad.
Yeah.
But with that case in point, I just shipped a suit today where they took it to somebody that did it fast, and they sewed all of these logos all over the suit, and they sewed the liner to the logo to the pockets, and and so all the time the liner was all scrunched up.
Oh,
So that attention to deep. Also, another thing, I'm sure that guy was probably, if he sees you out and he didn't get that logo straight, oh, dude, I want to throw up in my mouth. You know what I mean? I was like, no. So
yeah.
I can understand.
Yeah, and you got to remember, I don't race. I've done like a handful of track days. I just like the logo because I'm a bit of a poser, right? And I'm like, oh, I just want to have a nice Arai patch on it. So and even then, knowing that there's no skin in the game, there was nobody that was going to be mad at the job that he had done. He just refused to do it. And he's like, I'm not charging you. He goes, don't get me wrong, I don't need your money. I just want to do a good job. So
yeah, that's important. Yeah. It's important. I mean, especially for me. I was watching a video not too long ago, and it's a guy at the big motorcycle meets, and he just throws the patch on there, just starts stitching it down, and I was like, no. I mean, dude, I measure the thing. You know what I mean? I measure it from the side. I measure it from this angle. I measure it straight down. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm sure your buddy's the same way. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah,
it's what you put into it,
Yeah. Now, is everything, all the clothing you sell, manufactured on site? Do you offshore anything? What is that supply logistics chain? What does that look like?
Yeah, so we do all of the. When I first started, I had no sewing experience at all.
Oh wow.
And so when I first started this, you think about it, I used to be in email and messaging. And so I was at when Facebook first started, I was at Fordham University. And so they were just putting this black pipe through to connect all four major schools together.
Right.
And so I was the IT, I was the email instant messaging guy. And so they sent us Facebook on a gold verbatim disc written in green marker. And they were just install this. And this is going to be your new yearbook. And that's what it started out as.
Right.
And I installed that. So when we set that up, and the whole deal is, I can't remember the question. What was the question again?
The question was supply chain logistics.
Yeah.
Where do you make all your suits?
So the whole deal is set it. When I first got into that, I was setting Facebook up for the first time, and so Facebook didn't exist when I was setting my factory up in Pakistan. And so, and then within, and then I left IT 2 years later, and then Facebook started coming around as my popularity with the suit started picking up, and then my factory on the back end started selling our suits to different brands.
Huh.
And so what I'm trying to say is, when I first started, it was hard to put this stuff to get together.
Yeah.
And then I think about all these different brands years ago that were going to China, or even Vance and this making stuff in the United States at that time. And that took some real hard work. Well, now all it takes is for Dan and Eric Lowe to get on Facebook, and you can start your own company. They're contacting you. You know what I mean? So we manufacture in Pakistan. With that being said, the issue with that over the years is, of course, the same thing with China. You get IP issues. You get. We got a lot of recognition for our gloves and our suits. Issue is next day they're selling it to somebody else. One time we ordered 179 suits, which for a lot of brands, that's nothing.
Right.
For me, that was huge. And all the zippers were bad. And so what started me stitching was I started taking these down to a lady to have every. We didn't just repair one of the zippers; we repaired all of the zippers, and so she did half of them, and I was just like, she got tired of doing them, and so I was just like, well, I got to start learning how to do this.
Yeah.
And so I bought a sewing machine, and that's where it started.
Huh. Interesting.
And so, well, just fixing stuff, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so now we've got machines here. I mean, I just got a machine yesterday. It's $5,200. A printer over here is $14,000. You know, each one of these machines over here from $35,000 to $5,000. I mean, the biggest thing is each one of these are dedicated. I mean, you know, I've got a $400 or a $100 serger over here. I mean, that anybody could use. But what's interesting, that there's so many different components but with so many different skill sets. But the whole deal is, I don't know how you can have a company and not know how to be able to service that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Pakistan is the question.
You know, that's fine. And you know, you might be aware of this. One little known fact, and I don't know why I know this random fact, is I have a buddy who has a hookup for Hugo Boss suits. For not obviously, you know, suits.
Cool.
And they get them cheap, and they're legitimate Hugo Boss suits, but he gets them at an amazing price, and they you know, they fall off the truck. And he goes, even when he went, it was like in the movies, you know, they'd have to go to another city. They go to the back of this warehouse. It looks like a storage fridge, like a walk-in freezer. You open the door, you walk down a bunch of stairs, and there's, you know, racks and racks of suit, hundreds, right? Like as it was a movie. And I said, how does it work? They said, you know what? It's actually semi-legitimate in the sense that when Hugo Boss goes to their manufacturer in China and says, hey, make me 10,000 suit, they go, and you can make 200 more. And as long as you don't go over that limit, I'm going to turn a blind eye. What happens to those suits? I don't care. I don't want to know. Right? And that's how they keep that relationship honest, in the sense that, you know what, we already know you're going to screw us over, but please limit the amount of screwage you have. Right? Like,
that's interesting.
And so that's what I heard from the guy who sold the suit. Now, whether that's actually true or not, I imagine to say, but that's a good enough story to satisfy me. Right.
I used to work for Louis Vuitton when I was in email, and that was before I worked at Fordham. And when I was at Louis Vuitton, my cube was right next to counterfeit, and so at lunchtime it was so much fun because I got involved with the small counterfeit team, and that counterfeiting team was the first counterfeiting team in the whole fashion industry. And so I used to go on stings with them. And so but with them, I don't know about that scenario with Hugo Boss, but with them, you know, a lot of the different Chinese factories that were making them could make the bags or ready to wear almost as good as Louis Vuitton himself, or Louis Vuitton themselves. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
So I don't know. That's interesting. I never knew, you know, about that offset order. You know.
Yeah, I think I'm okay to tell this story. If it isn't too bad, my dad used to own a software company, and he outsourced a lot of the coding to China. Right? Okay. Cheap and cheerful, right? Why not? He says, and he wrote like this electronic medical record database software that's only really meant for hospitals. There is no other use for it. You can't use it. You know, nobody can use it except for hospitals. And he said 1 week before it went gold, and you know that term went gold, meaning that before he had locked down the product, saying, okay, go ahead and make 50,000 of these CDs that I can sell. Because 1 week before they went gold, he saw his CD being sold on the street.
Get out of here.
So it is just, you know, it is the way they do business, right? For better or for worse.
It's heartbreaking, man. It really is, because I've seen, you know, I've had that happen with, dude, I know at least, there's got to be at least 12, you know, as soon as you said the guy in Canada, you know, there's been 3 brands that with my original factory that they've made. There's 3 brands in Canada that were just reselling my suit in Canada and my gloves in Canada with a different name on it.
Wow.
And what's funny is there's tons of people that have no ethics. And what's funny with the people that I deal with in Pakistan, they can sit there and every word that they say is brother. Oh, brother, we love you, brother, and what
Right.
more can we do for you, brother? And oh, God bless you, brother. I mean, I grew up in a Christian home, man, and when I talk about God, it's with reverence, and also that there's repercussions from you know what I'm saying. You know what I
Sure.
mean? You don't just throw it around loosely.
Yeah, you're not using it as a competitive advantage. You mean
Dude,
it.
these guys, in one hand, and when you ask them about it, it's like, yo, dude, I just saw this brand ballistic set up, and they're selling my exact glove and my exact same fit, and it was an old racer that I used to sponsor. And it's not just one. It's there's been at least 12 or 13 of these across the world.
Yeah.
And so, man, if I had $1 for every race product that had heroic inspiration from it, we'd be a rich. I mean, but your father can say the same thing. You know what I mean?
Sure. So there's a famous ex-photographer.
Okay.
His name is Gary Fong. And he invented something called, the light sphere. Oh, all of a sudden the name escapes me. He invented this gadget to help you diffuse light from a flash, right,
Okay.
when you're doing flash photography. And it was a big thing. The problem with that is it's very easy to copycat and it's very easy to counterfeit. And you would think that would kill his business, but because he was already successful, he was already wealthy, he spent a lot of time, energy, and money to fight these guys,
Is
and
that right?
go IP lawyers,
Yep.
etc. And he fought tooth and nail, and he took a lot of these businesses down. Now, obviously, you can't take every single business down,
Of
right?
course.
But he fought hard, and he detailed it in his blogs, like maybe again 10 years ago. Anyways, I thought that was really really cool. Do you go that route? Is that something you bother to invest time and energy in, because it's soul sucking for one, and B,
Yeah.
it's very costly.
Yeah. The biggest thing for I got a situation right now, but it's where I've got a guy. There's specific things that I'm very proud of that I've come up with on the suits that make them work better and whatnot. And then there's people that there's just people that are, so like you said, soul suckers. And there's another guy that just he knows that he can exploit it, and then he's got all these guys that can help feed the fire and whatnot. But my whole deal is, and my wife, she reiterates it too, and my parents would as well. Is just like, if that's the avenue that they want to take,
Mm.
and I really hate it when people say, oh, what's the counterfeiting is the or copying is the what's the
It's your form of flattery.
I hate that. Just like, shut up.
Yeah.
Shut up. Because it's never happened to you, obviously. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah,
When
yeah.
it happens to you, it guts you.
Sure.
But then and when it happens multiple times, it guts you. But the whole deal is, it's just like your t-shirt and my t-shirt, the one your brother's wearing. It's just, I can change, I can do like yours has, it's worn in, so it gives it an effect. That's a totally different t-shirt.
Mm.
And so that would not hold up, in even if it's the same pattern that I'm making. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's a very thin line, and I'm not doing the volume, and so people like to thieve on that. But
Mm.
I just grew up in a family that just like, what, they're going to get their due. You know?
Yeah.
So
And talking to you, one of the things I think I've realized already is that you're very creative. And one of the things I like to suggest is I think of you internally as a chef, okay, a very, very good chef. And I'll tell you why. I remember reading an article one time, and the chefs, gave out his recipes, right? And people were coming up to him and going, dude, you're like a world famous chef. Why would you give out your recipes?
Right.
Like, people come to your restaurant to eat your food, and you're just telling them how it's made. Like, why? And he said, I can create these amazing recipes. Nobody can take that away from me. If you want to, learn how to make my Cobb salad or my Caesar salad, here you go. Don't you think I can reinvent that Cobb salad, the next day? So It's not a big deal to me. Yeah, you're stealing you're using my recipes. That's fine. I'll create a better one tomorrow. So I think that's a really cool attitude.
I mean, I think it is a really cool attitude. The other side is that, to be honest with you, the frustrated side is that those people that are stealing what you're putting out, they feel like it's no big deal because somebody else is making it.
Mm.
And I think in all actuality, they think that that innovation possibly could never have come from me.
Mm.
And so there's no problem me stealing it because everybody else is doing it. And I just want to make a little money.
Yeah.
But the whole deal for me, when I see that, it makes me scratch my head. I just did it. Seriously, it's just because, dude, I don't go after your wife. Well, first off, I'm married.
Yeah.
But then the other thing is, I don't go after your truck because it's not my truck.
Yeah.
And I don't claim it's my truck. And therefore, I'm driving my own truck. You know what I mean? And you can drive your truck anywhere you want to. But there's a level of pride, I guess, that, we're still a tiny company, but there's a level of pride in personally knowing what I've done. And also the people that truly are there all along, they know your milestones. You know what I mean? And so I find honor in that. And you know what? If it is what it is, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, you're not gonna. Unfortunately, you just can't stop these leeches. You just cannot. That's too bad. Now, do you have a favorite suit? First of all, let me ask you another question before we go to a favorite suit. Back to the C3PO suit story. Do you just do one-offs, or do you say, okay, this suit is nice, I'll make another one for this guy because he's willing to pay?
Yeah, I mean, well, it's very difficult because generally most people come to me for a one-off suit. And if you look down my I got a portfolio on Google and also Facebook and whatnot. Most, I sit down and talk with Eric Lowe, and I figure out what your interests are and whatnot, and I put a personality in that suit.
Yeah.
And then you get guys that have looked at that suit for so long, and I gotta have one just like it. And I got that issue right now is that, I've had several people that just love certain designs that I've done, and they want a copy of it. Yeah. But I'm very adamant. It's very hard because I'm definitely one of those people that like originality.
Sure.
But then on the other side is it's just me. And so, I may have some good ideas, but I don't have a turbo. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So coming up with new stuff, it's to the place right now, right? I need to grow. You know what I mean? So if you're looking for a job and you're a good designer, you let me know.
Okay. I'm not looking for a job, and unfortunately, I'm graphically challenged.
Well, I tell you what, if anybody's watching this show and the biggest thing is that a lot of people are just like, oh man, I can design the suit. I can put Honda on there. I can put, the biggest thing is coming up with something new.
Mm.
And with what we were talking about before is coming up with that next innovation. Like for instance, my Genesis midsection on my suits, and like one of the things that I came up with when I first started was external slider protection. And what's funny is that was, a lot of people came to me as far as building a custom. Vance is still coming to me and saying, they came to me 2 months ago and said, can we buy some of your shoulder protectors to put on a customer suit? I said, that looks stupid. So there's still customers, strangely, or brands in the industry that still haven't caught up with the basic stuff of modern suits. But yeah, there's just a lot of innovations that, looking for somebody new. I need to find somebody that has that creative drive, and somebody has that vision for what's next.
Yeah. Now, when you're talking about new innovation, are you talking about technology, or are you just talking about like a new pattern, a new style, a new color palette? What does that mean?
Well, what's funny is like a lot of these different, the thing that people are copying right now is the midsection of my suit. Mm-hmm. And I just noticed from when I was making a kid suit, the biggest thing is we only have a short amount of time to make your kid fast.
Mm.
Where you get a small window where your kid has no inhibitions, no fear.
Yeah.
And I quit. And the thing is, all these parents came to me and just like, all these suits fit like potato bags. And so I was like, well, how can I make this? I sat down and I said, I put a suit on, and I sat there and moved around in it for hours. And I sat down and wrote notes on why it's holding me back.
Mm.
And so that's where I came up with our Genesis midsection. And so, to answer your question, is being able to sit down and out of the box, be able to come up with solutions that just aren't available right now. So whether that's technology or motion or paneling or material, you know, it's fun, dude.
Yeah, no, you know what? I just thought of something really silly. Why would you not try to hire, or why wouldn't you try to hire someone who's blind? Because someone who's blind has lost that sense of sight, and so he or she must be very in tune with their body and their surrounding. If you can design a suit where they don't feel like that they're being sausaged up, for lack of a better term, maybe that's an avenue of creativity you could pursue.
That's pretty cool. You know any blind people?
I'm sure I can find you a couple. Blind riders might be hard, but blind people, I'm sure they exist.
Speaking of that, give me a second here. Oh. I got this guy that's stopping in tomorrow. And this guy, he got in a wreck with he got in a wreck. Oh, it was with a surfboard. He fell off a surfboard.
Huh.
And the surfboard came around and hit him in the back of the neck.
Yeah. And
it blocked his nerves on his right side of he lost functionality of his arm.
Wow.
And so this guy used to ride supermotos on the racetrack and whatnot. He's pretty good. Amateur to mid-level, I would assume.
Okay.
But he came to me. He said, "Man," he said, "I want to be able to ride again, but I can't put my hand on the bike to hold himself on the motorcycle."
Sure.
So he actually brought me this contraption. Can I put it on real quick?
Yeah.
So check this out. It just looks like a neoprene cup, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So what you do is you stick your hand through here like this. You bring this around. So what it does is it puts your hand into a handlebar position or a broomstick, right?
Right.
Or
makes sense.
what? And so what it does is it locks your hand in that position.
Right.
And so what he's able to do is put his hand on the handlebar and be able to support his weight with his core, but still be able to get into the motion. And so we took this idea and made a race glove out of it.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
And so what's cool is that in one try, we made a race glove that looks just like our SPR Pro line, but it looks like a Spock mitten.
Right.
So and we cut out the inside so he can stick his fingers in the holes. But if we did each finger, he couldn't get his fingers separated.
Right.
So we made the mitten. So what I'm trying to get at is that you know, the coolest thing is being able to like what you were talking about with working with a blind person, to be able to get out of that visual roadblock. Man, there's so many different scenarios. It's a really cool job. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, when I saw the glove, I instantly thought that makes a lot of sense on a racer, especially if someone who's already compromised, who's already injured, and they got to ride through that injury. If you can give them even a 10% advantage of not having to grip as hard, right, by having already a shaped glove, that's really cool. Makes
Well,
sense.
the crazy thing is too that it's got to be protective though.
Yeah.
And so you think about functionality, but also motion, but also something that if you hit the ground, you're going to protect yourself. You know, so it's there's a lot to it.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Now let me circle back. You told me in the beginning that you used to stutter and you overcame that. I think that's pretty inspirational. How did you come? How did you overcome that?
Well, I'm definitely a professional stutterer.
I wouldn't be able to tell if you hadn't told me. I wouldn't have known.
Well, the like when I was a kid, I think my parents are very demanding people and a little overbearing. I love them to death, but you know, definitely very
Sure.
and I'm the same way. And so obviously, uh, formed in the same way. So I think with that, you know what I mean? I had a lot of anxiety as a child. And so, I remember as a kid, like when it first started, I was going to school, and a lot of that, as soon as I started speaking, I got held back in school. A lot of ridicule from other kids and whatnot. And so when I got a little older, my mom started taking me to Purdue University for speech therapy. And so, I mean, there was a point in my life where I couldn't get a sentence out.
Mm,
And
wow.
in fact, I remember to this day, well, thousands of times. I mean, you can search through Facebook posts, and one of the guys that I used to sponsor that would blatantly get online and you know, he would, he'd say every time that Todd stutters, he's lying to you. I mean, he'd say these to customers just to promote his brand over the top of the brand that he's copying off. And
That's
so
crazy.
I remember thousands of times when you're sitting there late at night reading Facebook posts and saying, every time that guy stutters, he's lying to you. So, it was a lifetime of, I guess, frustration. But I think you're talking about overcoming it. There's just the biggest thing is just getting around yourself.
Mm.
And so I think your brother's talked to me several times about it in the past, and you're just like, how do you public speak and whatnot and be able to get words out? The biggest thing is just relaxing and having a good time.
That's good.
And I'm an
Uh,
uptight dude, you know what I mean? So
okay. Yeah, no, that is the reason why I don't do a lot of social media. Before starting up the Shiny Up Side Up podcast, I don't have Twitter, I don't have Instagram, I have Facebook, and that's just kind of boredom. It's just something to do kind of thing during the day.
sure.
You know, but I don't have it installed on my phone. So when I do check Facebook, it's only because I'm sitting in front of a computer, and I do sit in front of a computer a little too much. But I do limit myself on what I can do, and I think it's healthy not to follow up on social media as much.
I think
You know,
so too, man.
so yeah, so screw them. You don't have to listen to anything they say.
No, I think we get consumed in that. You know what I mean? And it really, what is it? You're sitting there trying to get approval. I think that's what it is, right?
I think so. Yeah, like I'm not gonna lie to you. I mean, I've checked on my YouTube page to see how many people's downloaded the video that I've been making the last 2 weeks. I do that as well. But realistically, a lot of people tell me don't bother. Like it doesn't make it easier. It doesn't change anything first of all, and it only makes you more upset and more uptight. So, just set it, upload it, and forget it. If somebody watches, somebody watches. If nobody watches it, doesn't matter. It's still a good conversation. So that's the way I would like to take it.
It's kind of funny with me. I really enjoy doing those. I don't know if you've ever seen them, but I mean, a lot of the suits, the custom suits, before we ship it, we do a video of it. And what's funny is at night, I'll sit there and listen to it a couple times, and and I still try to figure out what words I'm getting stuck on, and what little bear traps is my tongue getting snagged on. But really, I think it just comes down to just being comfortable with yourself,
Yeah.
And yeah, I think it gets better over the years.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're successful in your own right, so that doesn't hurt.
You know what? I think the biggest, I was chatting with my wife the other day, and I was just like, I'm still having fun. And if I can keep still having, I was talking to your brother about this too, leading up to the show, and just, everybody asks about the racing side of the business, but for me, we have really been trying to focus on the guy that just watched that Top Gun show.
Right.
And if I can get that guy right when he's got his jaw on the ground and he's building that scenario in his head of how can I get the girl, how can I get the bike, how can I pay for the insurance? Yeah. I want to be there and be the guy to say, I'm here to keep you to help direct you into the right apparel to wear. And so that's very crucial, because it's not only is it important what you're wearing, but also how it looks, but also how it's going to perform. Yeah. And so something we're making right now is our Kevlar armored hoodies. I think your brother's rocking one of those.
Yeah, he's actually my cousin, but I think of him as a brother.
I thought you guys were brothers. Okay.
Yeah, we have that low semblance. All the cousins have it. We all look very much alike. It's pretty crazy. It's very strong genes.
Yeah, brothers almost, right?
Yeah. Now, when we're talking about designing gear, what is the most rewarding aspect of designing gear for you? What makes you still wake up in the morning and go, gosh, this is great?
I just, like one of the simplest things we're doing right now is these Kevlar armored hoodies.
Right.
And what's funny is I love it when a guy calls us at 2:00 in the morning and he says, hey man, everything you told me at the show, I just wrecked and slid 40 feet, and I have no cuts, no bruises, no, and I'm sitting there in bed. I was like, what time is it? But the whole deal is it's so satisfying.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
I mean, if I owned IBM, nobody's going to call me at 2:00 in the morning and tell me that laptop's great.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But I guess the company, the scale that we are, people are I still get to talk to people at the shows. I love that.
Yeah.
I get to inject the energy that I want to relay to the customer. That's why I love that we don't have a dealer network. I love to be able to talk to Eric or Dan and be able to tell you 3 features that you'll never forget about it. And I don't know, when we make those, those shows are almost like heroin. I guess I've never done heroin, but I mean, it's addictive, because
right.
I love being able to be at these shows when people are drunk and get them jazzed up for the upcoming season,
Yeah, I do in my other life. I do a lot of trade shows. So I get a buzz. I get a buzz out of talking to strangers, teaching them something that they didn't know, and then getting them excited about the product. So yeah, I understand that. That's very cool.
Do you know how hard it is to talk to a guy that's wearing a Harley shirt and looks like he could break you into 22 pieces. That's the most exciting person that I love talking to that person at the show.
Right. You know,
if I can find a person that there's absolutely no way in the world that he would ever want to buy my product, and I get him to walk away with the product, it's the most satisfying thing.
Yeah,
it's addicting.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I love it when I find a customer who I've pulled out of the crowd, and they turn around and say, "I already have a competitive product." Oh, dude, that makes me so excited. I'm like, really? So what don't you like? And it could be as simple as, well, what is wrong with it? Yeah. Why are you here today, right? And I love flipping them. I know I feel kind of silly for saying that, but I love knowing that that person has a competitive product, and I was able to show them the benefit of what we do.
Now, so, what's the steps to that?
Steps to what? Talking to them?
How do you do it?
Yeah. Now I've broken this down to a lot of fellow. I'm not in sales, by the way. Okay, so I'm actually not in sales, but
I don't think you have to be.
Yeah. But I've broken this down to a lot of salespeople, and they clap at the end of it. So I don't know if I'm getting the same effect, because I think it's really, really funny. And I don't want to sound I don't want to sound sexist in any way. I don't think it will be that. But I like talking to the ladies at the show. Yeah. Because yeah. And again, that's not because, you know, of anything. Because it's very easy to talk to them. Hey, I want more female representation in STEM. I want them in my industry. I want them at these shows. I want them to be, you know, represented. And so the first thing I say is, I'll walk up to them, or they'll walk by and I go, "Hey, how are your feet?" And 8 times out of 10, they'll be like, "Oh," right? If they're wearing heels, you go, "Man, those heels are high," right? Now, right away, you stop them, you made them smile, and they'll at least look at you, because humor sets it up.
Now, what kind of product were you like selling?
I still work for that company, so I'd rather not bring it into the conversation. That's okay. I'll tell you offline.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but the first thing I'll do is I'll say, "Man, how are your feet?" Right? It's high tech stuff. Okay. It's all techie, boring techie stuff. And I see them in heels, and I go, "How are your feet?" And they'll stop and smile, and they're like hurt. And then what I'll do is, to make sure that I relate to them, I will always say, "Oh man, you should see my feet. Look at these 1-inch heels." Right? And I'll wear like men's dress shoes, and usually have a bit of a heel on them. Right? And I'm self-deprecating myself, so now they're more at ease. They know that I'm not being serious. I'm not hitting on them. I'm just being a goof. And then I'll say, and I always say this, then I'll go, and my wife just looks at me and laughs every time I complain about my feet. Now that's another breakdown to say, oh, this guy's married. He's telling me right up front that he's married. He's not hitting on me for sure, because this guy must love his wife. He's talked about his wife within the first 5 seconds of us meeting. So just those 3 lines alone gets them to stop. And then if we have plush carpet, I'll say, "Hey, your feet must be tired. Either come into my carpet," which you're drawing them in without talking about anything else. Come into my, let me talk to you for 5 seconds. Come into my carpet, stand for a bit, because we got nice plush carpet. It doesn't hurt as much. And then I say, while that's happening, can I get you a coffee? What do you do? And that's when I start the conversation, right? And that's how it's done. So for men, I like it when they're holding a drink. I'll say, "Hey, do you want a bit of vodka to go with that Coke, or, you know, like gin and tonic or something," right? To say, "Hey, you've had a hard day. Can I get you a beer? Can I put something a bit of alcohol in that?" And they'll laugh. And then a lot of times they're like, "Oh, we loved it. You know, we wish," and blah blah.
What I'm taking away from this is that you're a subtle enabler.
I am an extremely extroverted introvert. I know when my job is to talk, to engage with people, I do that reasonably confidently.
Right.
But I tell all my coworkers the same thing. I go, as soon as that show ends, don't talk to me. I don't want to have dinner with you. I don't need to go anywhere. You know, if you guys go to the strip joint, leave me out of it. I just don't need to be there. Just leave me alone. I'm happy, sit in my room. I turn on the TV and put my feet up, and I'm good for the rest of the night, because I know, A, I'm there for a job, and B, I'm not a socializing kind of guy. One thing is how I start all my interviews. Okay, the 5 minutes when you and I were chatting, I was a little bit more high key, high energy with you, but generally I am like, "Hey, how's it going? Right? How's coronavirus treating you? Like blah blah blah." And as soon as Dan counts down 3-1. I'm like, hey, I'm really excited.
Right,
Blah, blah, blah. Because I know that is the job, right? So.
Sure. That's pretty cool. Yeah, I mean, back to that trade show, the funniest guy is that big Harley guy that's walking down the way. And what's funny is his first thing to say is that the first thing that he's going to say is, I don't need your stuff. I ride a Harley. And so what we do is we always say, hey, hey, I see you ride a Harley. What is it? Hey, looks like you ride a Harley and you don't need protection, but check out this glove. And what's funny is you've already said all their points that they're going to write you off with.
That's right.
And then he's like the most attentive person because he's never been blocked through,
Yeah.
So
yeah.
man, those things are the best. I really love those shows. But
yeah, they're interesting. So where do you want to take this company? What is the next step? How can we make you achieve your next goal?
Man, I tell you what, the biggest dream is not even motorcycle related. The biggest dream is just make a lifestyle brand. And my whole intention to begin with is to make heroic jeans and underwear. And so I want to be able to create a product that's and also the whole interesting thing of the good side, I guess, of this whole epidemic recently is the people's visualization and understanding that we need to bring back manufacturing to the United States.
Yeah.
And dude, our fathers and grandfathers just sold us out. You know what I mean?
Mm.
And so that's kind of strange for me to say myself because we're manufacturing in Pakistan.
Yeah.
But that's where people make odorless leather, and they make the best footballs in the world in Pakistan, and that's how they got to be motorcycle industry. So with that being said, I've had, I don't know how many people work here, and it's exciting. I want to be able to get to that next step, but the biggest thing is start doing more manufacturing here. And lifestyle brand.
Yeah, that is really a hard thing to crack, and I'll tell you why. I do read up on supply chain. I do. Dan probably doesn't know this. We have an uncle who is connected to a giant manufacturing factory in China. I think it's his son-in-law. I don't think he owns it, but his son-in-law. But it's huge. It's like city blocks.
Wow.
Right. Big. And I've been through it once, and it was like a 4-hour trip just to get through from end to end. And I don't think we saw everything.
Amazing. Huh,
it's ridiculous. Cool. It's ridiculous. Yeah. And that was like 10 years ago. So imagine what it's like now. Yeah. My point is, and I get this a lot from my Canadian friends, right? Like all my white friends. They're like, why can't we make iPhones in Canada or in the States? Right. And I said, first of all, your labor is not cheap. Right? And even at minimum wage, you're making more money than the guy in China. Oh, the poor Chinese guy, he's getting ripped off. I go, no. He's making more money in China as a factory worker to make your iPhone than he would be had he not. If he was back home as a farmer, he'd be making bumpkin. He'd be making bupkis, no money. And you, with a farming background, you understand that it's a very hard life. It's not a money-making proposition.
No.
Right? It's really for the love of it.
Yeah. And so, which is crazy too, because my dad has millions of dollars worth of equipment.
Yeah,
but makes no money.
Yeah,
and it doesn't matter what level of farmer you are. The government, the government screws you. You know what I mean?
Really?
It's horrible. It's unless you have all of your ground paid off. There's my dad has an awesome farm. There's just no money in it. You know what I mean? And it's sad.
Yeah, really, you guys should be the millionaires.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, when it all comes down to it, and this, pandemic has kind of proven that, dude, all we really care about is food.
Yep.
Right. Even toilet paper has kind of gone on the way. Well, toilet paper is kind of big deal for whatever reason. But my point is, yeah, it should be the guys growing the food, making the food, and taking care of the livestock. I think you guys or your parents should be the ones who are millionaires and billionaires.
Well, what's funny is I understand that and I agree with you, but it's it's kind of like 9/11. I was here in New York when that took place, and before and after. And what's funny is for a couple months, people were holding hands and people were hugging and singing "Kumbaya," and then immediately, within a month and a half, it's forgotten.
Really?
And well, I'm speaking figuratively, but the whole deal is it's similar to the farmer. I mean, people recognize right now. There's just like, oh man, I need that. That farmer's important. But then within weeks of even this taking place, it's back to that country bumpkin. Yeah, that's a flyover state. That's those people get subsidies all the time. Oh, those people, dude, those people are our lifeline, and it's a major important part of our GDP. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And on top of that, every farmer that I can't think of a single farmer that I grew up with or farming family. Every one of the people involved are geniuses. They are. I mean, how can you go and they're expert marketers, they're expert managers, they're expert acquisitionists, they're finance people, because every year you have to be able to finance millions of dollars worth of operations. I mean, just in fertilizer and seed, you got $400,000-$500,000.
Yeah.
I mean, these aren't people that are just going to work, sending emails, and collecting a check.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And just because they don't live on 57th Street and drive a Porsche 911 or an X5, these people are freaking geniuses, man. And they should be handled better, and they should be appreciated, like you were saying.
Yeah, I think that's a big deal. I think that's, if there's one thing we need to change in the mindset of Americans and Canadians, that farmers matter. Farmers and teachers matter.
Yeah, right. I agree.
I think if we're gonna spend money now on bailing people out,
teachers, very important. Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah. So manufacturing, bring it back to the States. That's something you're passionate about now.
Well, like you were saying, I don't know if it's attainable to have 100%, but I would definitely like to be able to get some sort of manufacturing going on here, and just I think it's strong. I think it tells a great story. I think it's doable, and even if even if the customer has to spend a little more, I think it's important to most people.
Yeah. No, I mean, maybe not everything, because everybody has a budget, but for certain things, like let's call it what it is. This is a luxury item.
Yep.
Right. So yeah, why wouldn't you pay an extra couple of bucks to make sure that it's well made in the States, right? So I think that makes sense.
What's funny is with Heroic and Vanson and maybe Syed from Florida, and maybe one or two brands in California are the only actual brands in North America that sew. And so, I do tons of repairs for Dainese on this side of the Mississippi. I do tons of Alpine Star work from Alpine Star. We used to do all of the Revit repair and alteration work in the United States. What's funny is there is demand. I mean, there is, even if it's just in the maintenance. But I think it really, with that, saying that, I really think that there's a lot of customers that come to me just because we do that side of the business. Because look, you go and buy a $1,400 suit, or now to $2,600, $3,000, $5,000 suit. The cost of ownership, who's going to repair it when you wreck a quarter of a lap around the racetrack first time around? Forgot to put my tire warmers on. Happens all the time. So So for me, that being able to do the service side of the business is very important, and be able to talk to you on the phone. I think a lot of customers love to be able to talk to the owner of the company.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that's part of the appeal. I mean, I really enjoy speaking with Ivan. I was bothering the crap out of him back in the day because he'd be sewing a suit, and I'd be like trying to chat him up, and he's like, "Dude, bro, I need to focus." So,
Yeah.
right.
But then the other side too is that how often are people stopping by?
Mm,
I mean, when you got a guy like you that's stopping by
yeah.
and wants to spend time with me, I guess me as a business owner, and hopefully somebody that's listening to this that's a business owner listens to that story that you just said. It is sitting down and sewing that suit as important as talking to the guy that's stoked about it. Because think about it, whether you're being paid or not, you're repping the brand.
Mm,
Because if I can detach from these machines or from doing my taxes or whatnot for a few minutes for Eric and I to have a conversation, how many people are you going to tell?
yeah. No, totally. And that's exactly what he's done.
Yeah.
I mean, before he passed, I mean, literally word of mouth. Again, without a lie, I mean, I can count probably 6 to 7 guys that had bought a suit directly because I said, "Oh wow, look at this! Let's go for a ride and check it out."
Dude, that's huge. That's awesome.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
yeah. So I was pretty sad when he passed. I stopped going to him when I kind of stopped riding on the street for a bit, and then when I found out that he had passed away, I was like, "Wow, that's really sad."
That's a
But
great
anyway,
story. That's a great story for me because it's just like with what I just said, it's important that I need to be able to step away sometimes. You know what I mean? So
how many employees do you have, and has COVID-19 or does lockdown affected?
yeah, I mean, like right now it's just me and my wife, and from time to like during the summer, usually we'll pick up the 2 or 3 repair people. I mean, I do everything. We've got 3 factories,
Mm,
2 main factories and 1 overflow if I need it. But we've got 1 main factory that does awesome. I mean, they're my consistent go-tos, overflow and then overflow. It's important when you're doing this kind of stuff that you can make sure that you're not in a production bind. But here, it's funny is like everybody is just like, what advice can you give me? And I was just like, dude, I need to get advice from you. But my biggest advice is, this is 3 years ago is the first year that I went out and got an accountant.
okay.
And get professional accounting. You know what I mean? But being able to offload that is such a nice thing. The other thing is so the legal side of the company. I've been starting to offload different jobs, and so I'm working with I got a guy that wants to help start designing for me. So hopefully, like in the next 6 months or so, maybe a lot of the work I can shove off on his plate. So I think we're getting there.
Yeah, by the way, you're crazy. When I started my company, the first thing I did was hire an accountant.
Okay. Yeah.
Against against the Asian stereotype, right? I hate math. I'm like, I want nothing to do with math. I just want to be able to design my software and then build it out and then find
Yep.
the talent to do so. I do not want to know anything about money or income flow or anything. Just tell me how bad I'm doing.
That's my advice now is that anytime anybody asks me about the business and what they can recommend,
Yeah.
they want me to tell them about how to design a product or how to market it or how to sell it. I always say exactly what you did. Get an accountant. And they're just like, what are you talking about? I said, you don't want to get you the best organization you can have up front is going to be the best organization,
Yeah. No, I agree with you.
How are you going to bill? How are you going to be able to do your invoicing? How are you going to be able to do your taxes? How are you going to be able to do your reporting? Those are things it's not the sexy side of the company.
No, and it's things I don't want to be stuck with doing, period.
That's right.
So I'm glad you found somebody.
Yeah. So we've actually got 2. So yeah.
Yeah. All right. So cool. is there anything else that I can promote? Your Instagram, I think we'll link to that. Is there anything else you want to get off your chest before I let you go?
Man, I just want to thank you, and I love these people. You know, these different brands doing podcasts and whatnot. I watched a couple of yours, really enjoyed them. The nicest thing is just be able to sit down and listen to people, and I appreciate you sitting down and listening to me, and us be able to have a conversation and whatnot. But other than that, I like what you guys are doing.
Oh,
So
thank you so much. Yeah, like I'm a regular dude. I hate hearing the sound of my own voice. I always think it's the worst job ever, like that I've done. So thanks so much for that vote of confidence.
oh, it's exciting, man. You know it hey, from today on, and I've told your brother this too, is let's not think like that. You know what I mean? And we gotta, the biggest thing is whether it's your brand or what you're putting out there, man, it's exciting what you guys are doing, and it comes through in your work. So I appreciate you guys seeing the value in what we're doing here as well.
Cool. Yeah. Let's keep in touch, and when you're ready to roll out your new line of apparel, I'd love to have you back on.
That sounds very good. Hey, chat with you guys soon.
Okay. Thanks, Hans. Bye. Hold on, let me get it out first.
Oh, okay. You tell me when you're ready, and then I'll count.
I do not have coronavirus.